Let's talk with Evan in Ohio.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? Yeah, let's talk about it. Talks about the brain, talks about the soul. Evan, hi, can you hear us?
All right.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you guys doing? Hi, V. Hi, Shannon.
Hey, Evan.
I called last week. I don't know if you remember me, V.
Yeah, you called about your sister.
I called about. Yeah. So, anyway, I had a lot probably written that they wrote down, but I'm not sure if I still want to talk about everything there because that talk about hell kind of made me realize why I stopped going to church. And I mean, it would it, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be right to just randomly switch up what I said.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to talk about
I was wondering. Well, I just wanted to like kind of, I don't know. I think it's kind of bringing up a lot in me that I forgot about. But so I actually a long time ago had a huge fear of hell and would have like these horrible nightmares of it, which led me down to using drugs for 10 years, very addictive drugs for 10 years. And I just got clean 3 years ago, and I've been sober for 3 years, and now I'm married and have a kid, and I'm doing great now. And I used to say that was from religion. Religion got me sober, but listening to that made me realize that religion's what sent me down the path of using drugs. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting a little emotional because it was like almost like something I completely forgot about. But the whole hell idea was stuck in my head for a long time and scared the living shit out of me. And I was so scared to the point where I started using drugs to kind of hide that fear. And it worked for a while. And then for some reason, you know, AA and a whole bunch of other programs tell you that you need to submit to a higher power and that you need to believe in God in order to get clean, which is, I ended up believing that. And then for this whole time I've been saying, oh, God help me get clean. God help me get sober. And now I'm starting to kind of think maybe I was wrong about that. I don't know.
Well, can I ask?
I feel like, okay. Sorry.
I do have a question for you if you don't mind answering. And if this is something that you kind of want to go over by yourself, that's fine too. And we can talk about what you called in to ask. But I'm happy to go down this trail with you if this is where you want to go. You say that you're still, if I remember correctly, you believe in a God, but you don't identify as a Christian. Is that how you identify at this point, or are you a Christian still?
Yeah. I still kind of believe in a God. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I would really call it. I don't know if I'd really call it that. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, sorry. Do you have any hell beliefs now? Do you believe in hell? Is that something that is part of your belief system?
I don't know if I do or not. I don't know. I'm extremely scared of it. I still do have a huge fear of it, and will still sometimes have nightmares about it. But I don't know if I believe it or not. I think what I believe is very weird. I think that if you're a bad person in life and you live a negative life, when you die, you're gonna go towards negativity. So, and this is one of the reasons I was gonna call and talk about the soul too, is because I think that our soul is more like a transmission of energy to be picked up by the brain. And I know that sounds so woo-woo and hippie or whatever you want to call it.
Well, the second you bring energy into it,
smoking pot, but
goes in a direction. But I think that's a good way to start this conversation then, because if there is no soul, then we don't have to worry about an afterlife, right? So if we talk about this conversation and maybe thinking about the soul, then maybe you don't have to worry about hell.
I don't think I'm going to ever lose the idea of the soul because of some personal experiences that I've had that I know personal experiences don't mean anything to anyone but me. But those personal experiences, there's no way. I mean, there's no way I'm going to not believe in something after this life. And I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say never, because I don't know. I mean, I've been going through such a crazy thought processes lately, and I don't know. I don't know what I believe in anymore, actually, now that I'm talking to you and thinking about it.
Yeah, well, never say never. I mean, there's always.
I think I'm more scared.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a little bit scared, and I'm sorry to hear that. I hear myself in that. I hear how I used to be in that. And for what it's worth, I didn't think I wouldn't be scared in the future, and now I'm not. So there is the possibility that if we do continue down this path and you do have some changes of mind, then that fear can, in fact, go away completely. It may not.
Yeah.
But we can certainly have the conversation. I know Shannon was excited about this call because we're talking a little bit about the brain,
souls,
the soul. So why don't you phrase this as like a tweet length question or statement about the soul and the brain, and then I'll let Shannon have at it.
Wait, what do you mean? I'm sorry.
Let's rephrase what you called in about the brain, the soul, however you see those as intertwined. So give us that brief statement, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I have thought for a long time is like, okay, so I've always thought that there's a physical and that there's a spiritual. So there's but in this, I don't even really know if I should say spiritual. I just think it's something else. And I've always believed that our bodies, our brain, is just picking up signals from somewhere else to give an experience, almost like a video game. You can think of it like a video game, like you jack
like
into
we're avatars.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And so then you experience this life, and it's, gosh, there's so many thoughts of mine that don't really make sense, but if I don't.
Well, let's explore it then. You don't even have to make an argument. Why don't you and I have just a brief conversation about it? And is it okay if I ask you a couple questions? I sense you might be in kind of an exploratory space. Yeah. So what makes you think that our brains are receivers?
So just in a bunch of experiences I've had where I have felt as though I was not even myself anymore, but something, it felt like I was the beginning of existence, if that makes any sense. And I've had these thoughts since I was a child, and it might just be some mental disability, which is what I've always thought for a while, but it's just,
it doesn't sound like it's necessarily a disability.
That's the truth.
So you had an experience that defied your ability to explain the experience. So it sounds like you kind of came up with an explanation that would explain it to you to your satisfaction. Maybe?
Well, I would say it's more of, I know what happened, but there aren't words to explain it. So the way I've always explained it, or explained it to myself, I guess, is that I had been taken by God and shown, this is what everything is. This is where you come from. And here's the end of the road, bud. And then God disappeared, and it was just me. And there was nothing but me. And the realization that thoughts are what created this entire universe. And that's how.
So Evan, you said that you were in an addictive space at one point in time. Did any of this happen when you were using substances?
No. So that experience that I just told you did not happen when I was using substances. That was a reoccurring dream, and then also it was something I felt since I was a child too, just that idea that I was trying to explain to you since I was a child.
Is it something that has occurred during waking conscious states?
Yes, one of them did, and I can't say that. I can't say it was waking conscious, because it would have been, I had no longer been conscious once it started. So
okay. So in each instance where this happened, you were in potentially you were in a dream state.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So you're putting a significant amount of weight on experiences that happen when you're in an unconscious state. You're aware of that, right? And that most of our dreams are a way of us reconciling components of reality that we don't quite understand. That doesn't necessarily make them less impactful. And sometimes reoccurring dreams can be a way that we reconcile difficult questions. It can be a way that we are coping with things that we're grappling with. And it could be our brain's attempt to put together pieces of our perceptions and our thoughts into something that is resembling something cogent. But it doesn't make them any less real. It doesn't mean that you experienced it any less. So, and I understand, I think now that this is a very real and impactful experience for you. Have you contemplated any alternative explanations that you see as plausible?
Yeah.
Did you find any of them to be plausible?
I don't know. Okay. So
did you not want them to be plausible?
No, it's not. It's not that. It's that it's a gnawing. It just keeps coming back. It's a thing that keeps coming back, and I get it. Like I said, I never ever talked about any of this stuff with anybody. I always kept it in the back of my head because I always thought that it was crazy and it was stupid. And why am I thinking this?
It's not crazy or
especially
stupid.
When I was religious. I'm sorry, what?
It's not crazy or stupid. So I'd love it if you could stop looking at it through that lens, just for your own benefit, because it's common. It's very common. It's absolutely common. Our experiences aren't just our perceptions of the external world, right? Most of our experiences are internal experiences. Most of us have an internal monologue, like we have a dialogue, like we got to talk to ourselves in our heads. We couch things. We walk through how to problem solve. We do future projection. There's a lot of active states simultaneously taking place cognitively in our brains. And if you're consistent, like if you were grappling with something, and it sounds like you grappled with hell, you grappled with addiction, it sounds like you've had a lot of things to deal with, grappled with religion, your brain putting all of those components together into an experience for you during unconscious states that was really impactful to you is just something that makes sense from a neuroscience perspective. Now, it making sense from a neuroscience perspective doesn't mean that it was any less real for you any more than the light coming into my eyes right now doesn't make the experience of me seeing what's in front of me any less real for me. But there is an explanation for it. The experience isn't the explanation. The experience is separate from the explanation, but there is an explanation. So getting back to your soul thing, this seems like to really, really tie to how you perceive who you are in the universe, these unconscious experiences that could potentially have happened because you had a significant amount of stress and existential angst, seems to still be something that you're holding on to the vestiges of, to view your idea of yourself, because I'm assuming you would see your soul as yourself and how you exist in the world. Do you think that there's anything about viewing how you see yourself existing in the universe through that lens that may be causing continuous angst for you, that might be detrimental, that it might be worth exploring alternative explanations?
What exactly do you mean? Do you mean like if I am like holding on to this idea of the soul and that's causing me angst, or?
Yeah, holding on to it sounds like not just simply that you're holding on to the concept of a soul, but that the reason that you're holding on to the concept of the soul sounds like it's because you had this reoccurring unconscious experience that you've put a significant amount of weight on, and that's informing your opinion of who you are in the universe. Like if you see yourself as just kind of an avatar operating through life, and the reason that's receiving transmissions from elsewhere, and the reason that you're seeing it that way is because you've had these unconscious experiences that you haven't really ardently sought an alternative explanation for, I'm concerned that your perception of yourself and who you are is based on something that may have been an angst-induced faulty experience that you're putting is more weight on than is required, and that's going to continue to allow you to view life through a lens of angst.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I have explored plenty of other things of what it is. Like I understand that, which is why I always said I never really talked about this. The only person I talked about this with really was my therapist, who is not religious.
Okay, good.
So that's the only person I talked to about all this, because it was it was just very tied into the whole hell idea, and that so I always have these fears at night if I'm alone that I'm going to be dragged off to hell. Like something's going to come get me and drag me off to hell, which is this very silly fear, but it's very real for me, and so that's why I talk to a therapist still about it all. But
I'm glad. Good.
So she's explained a lot of what you've been talking about, and so I have been trying to explore those ideas, and I've been more comfortable at night now. And
good. I'm glad.
But I do agree that I think I do hold on to this.
Strong experiences with emotional connections are incredibly difficult to let go of, and it's very difficult to explore alternatives, especially when we start to ground things about how we perceive ourselves in reality through the lens of those experiences. That's one of the reasons that PTSD is something that is so important to address and prevalent, because we start to see heavily emotionally charged experiences start to be the lens through which we measure other perceptions. And this is something that maps similarly to me for you. And can you understand why I might be concerned? Because you said before you go to bed, you still have this really strong, I've identified as a rational fear. And you've also identified to me that when you're going into unconscious states, you have an irrational fear that you can't get rid of. And then you have these experiences, and you're utilizing these experiences to constitute a perception of yourself that you're still externally defending. Yeah. So holding on to that may be something that's preventing you from shirking off this this existential fear, because you're still holding on to a coping mechanism as the way to view your reality.
Yeah, I understand. It's
I'm just concerned for you. I don't mean to upset you. I sense your voice is dropping.
No,
so I apologize.
No, I get it. I get it.
Okay.
I have very similar talks like this every other Friday. So I do.
I remind lots of people as their therapists. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's cool. I really like my therapist. She's a really great human being, and then never brought up religion, which is awesome. So I'm the only one that brings it up, and she clearly doesn't put her ideas of religion. I don't even know if she's religious or not, which
is the way it should be.
A good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Evan, I want to thank you for calling in. This feels like this is a continual process, and you're asking the right questions, and you're going to therapy with the right kind of therapist, and you're doing a lot of the right things here. So I do want to affirm you in that. And it is going to take time to move out of this. This isn't something that you should have done already, or that you're late for, or that, is wrong in any way. This is just how you're experiencing what you learned I'm assuming as a kid. And so I do want to emphasize that. I also want to ask you a question to kind of leave you with this, and hopefully we will be able to talk again. Are you afraid of other kinds of hells? The hells of other religions, or just the one you were taught?
So this isn't even a hell that I was taught. This was a hell I came up with on all by myself. I know that sounds silly, but I get that question. I'm not scared of the Christian hell at all. This is a hell that I've been hurt with myself, and I'm digging into where that came from with my therapist. So
okay, wonderful. That is good to know.
Figure out how that happened, but
yeah. No, it's good to be able to distinguish between, no, this is not something that I was taught. This is not the religion. This is me. And where did this come from? And why am I thinking about it like this? So digging into that question is going to be very, very important moving forward. And if you have additional thoughts about this or about anything else, we would love to hear from you again.
Get off the phone and help. All right. I have to get out of here. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We appreciate your openness to dialogue, Evan, and
yes,
I echo everything V just said, and I wish you luck on the rest of your self-exploration journey.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you guys have said, and I'll probably listen over this again and kind of try and understand more with what I've said. Hearing myself talk is going to be very weird about this.
Hey, it can help. It can help.
I really do appreciate it.
We appreciate you calling, Evan. Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.